Okay, let's dive right in. Just for a second, try and picture paradise.
Yeah.
You know, those amazing white sand beaches, water so incredibly clear you can see the bottom,
Mm,
and these lush green hills sort of rising up. Sounds pretty idyllic, right?
yeah.
Well, that's Phuket. And today we're going deep into something really fascinating that's happening there. It's a luxury property market.
Yeah, it really is fascinating. It's a market that's, well, much more dynamic than just those pretty pictures might suggest. It's been showing some serious resilience lately, and, who's buying and what they want, that's really evolving.
Absolutely. And this whole deep dive, it's basically built around the insights from one key source we've got here. It's an article called Phuket's Luxury Property Trends Unveiled,
Okay.
and it comes from Ocean Worldwide. The article mentions it was put together by Gil Ovidade-Tien, who heads up their marketing. So we're getting a viewpoint from people right in the thick of it, specifically on that high-end residential side.
Right, that's important context. Ocean Worldwide, they focus on luxury homes, particularly in Phuket and Koh Samui. So their perspective, it gives this analysis a very specific luxury-focused lens. They're looking at what that specific buyer wants and how the market's trying to meet those needs.
Exactly. And just quickly, before we really jump in, pronunciation, it matters. It's Phuket.
Phuket, got it.
Phuket, not Phuket. Okay, good. Right, so our mission here, digging into this article, is really to cut through any hype. We want to get a real sense of what's actually driving this market, what kind of places, what kind of lifestyles are buyers looking for now, and, where are things genuinely headed?
Sort of distilling it down for you, the listener.
Precisely. Getting the essence of the Phuket luxury scene right now.
And it really is about moving beyond just the surface, that obvious appeal, and getting into the fundamental shifts and the real factors at play.
Okay, speaking of fundamentals, the first big thing that jumps out from this Ocean Worldwide piece is Phuket's resilience. The language they use is pretty strong, talking about the market holding strong, having serious staying power,
Mm.
which is, quite something, especially with all the economic ups and downs globally we've seen.
It really is. And the article makes a good point that the island's core appeal, that paradise quality you mentioned right at the start, it kind of acts as a natural buffer.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, this desirability means it can sort of weather economic storms maybe better than places without that same kind of deep-rooted global attraction. People might put off other big purchases, but that dream of a place in Phuket, it seems remarkably tough.
It does seem that way. And the article also points out something else. Alongside the, traditional dominance of villas, there's actually growing interest in condominiums, even in the luxury end.
Yeah, that's a subtle, but I think quite important shift.
Why is that?
Well, it could suggest a couple of things. Maybe the profile of the luxury buyer is broadening a bit, or perhaps what they prioritize is changing. A high-end condo can offer amazing amenities, security, management, all with maybe less upkeep than a sprawling villa. It hints at those changing preferences the article gets into next.
Which is exactly where it gets really interesting, isn't it?
Right.
Because it's clearly not just about the building itself anymore.
Not at all.
The source really emphasizes this big shift. Buyers are chasing a lifestyle, a certain vibe, maybe even more than just the physical property.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest trend they identify. It means how desirable a property is, it's completely tied up with its surroundings and the whole experience it offers.
So what does that lifestyle actually look like, according to the article?
Well, they spell it out pretty clearly. Easy access to those beautiful beaches, obviously, being close to good restaurants, and crucially, having wellness facilities nearby or on-site things like yoga studios, gyms, spas.
Right. So if you're looking at, say, what the article calls an ocean view residence, you're not just clocking the view anymore.
No, you're picturing a whole day, can I do my yoga easily? Is there a nice cafe for breakfast nearby? Can I walk to the beach? Where are we going for dinner tonight? The property is kind of the home base for that whole desired way of living.
The base camp for the good life.
Exactly. And for the market to really tap into this, the focus has to be on nurturing those long-term fundamentals, as the article puts it. That's the natural beauty, the famous Thai hospitality, the island's generally relaxed vibe. These aren't just fluffy marketing terms. They're the actual foundation of the lifestyle people are buying.
So developers, and maybe the island authorities too, they need to actively protect and even enhance those qualities.
That's the argument, yes. It's crucial.
And this change in what people want, it connects directly to who is doing the buying.
Yeah.
The article paints this picture of an evolving buyer. They call it the rise of the global design-savvy purchaser. What does that mean? Who are these people?
Well, they're described as a pretty sophisticated bunch. Global, meaning they're coming from all over the world, not just one or two places.
Right.
Design conscious, they appreciate quality, good aesthetics, good materials. They're value driven, looking for a solid investment, sure, but also really seeking the best fit for their lifestyle needs. And importantly, they are informed researchers. They've done their homework.
That last point seems key. It means developers can't just rely on, glossy brochures anymore.
Definitely not.
High-quality photos and videos, tons of detailed info online, clear pricing, all that becomes non-negotiable because these buyers show up already knowing a lot. They know what they want, and they can probably spot quality or the lack of it very quickly.
Precisely. And the article gets into their specific demands, which, unsurprisingly, line up perfectly with that lifestyle trend we just talked about. Wellness facilities, gyms, spas, yoga areas listed as a big draw. It's not like a nice to have anymore. It's expected.
Yeah, health and well-being, they're just central to luxury living today, aren't they?
Absolutely. And privacy is also huge. People want secluded villas or apartments where they can properly relax and escape. And something that's increasingly important is sustainability.
Ah, okay, how so?
The source mentions buyers actively looking for things like solar panels, maybe rainwater harvesting systems, energy-efficient appliances. It's becoming part of the value proposition.
So the property is more than just a status thing. It's like a personal sanctuary that also reflects the buyer's values, including being environmentally aware.
Yeah, that seems to be the direction. And all this feeds into this bigger transformation the article talks about, Phuket shifting from holiday destination to lifestyle home base.
Right, moving beyond just a place for a 2-week vacation.
Exactly. And this shift is being really pushed along by a few big global trends. The most obvious one they mention is remote working, this whole work from anywhere phenomenon.
Oh, of course.
Phuket, with its amazing climate and environment, suddenly becomes a very attractive anywhere to work from.
It really changes the calculation, doesn't it? Why just visit for a couple of weeks if you could actually live and work there, maybe long term?
That's the thinking. The article also mentions its appeal for families, pointing to international schools, a safe environment making actual relocation feasible. And of course, for retirees, that warm weather and slower pace, those are timeless draws.
Which means the properties themselves need to change too. A permanent home base needs different things than a short-term holiday let.
Totally different. The article points out the need for things like proper home offices, maybe larger living areas, gardens, and absolutely critical, reliable, high-speed internet. Developers are now having to design with permanent residents in mind, not just tourists.
It feels like a fundamental rethink of what the market is actually for.
It really does, a recalibration.
Okay, let's ground this in some numbers. The article gives some concrete data, which is helpful. It says the total current inventory across all the active developments is over 40,000 units.
Wow, okay. That's a lot of property in the pipeline.
It is. It gives you a sense of the scale of investment and activity right now.
Definitely. And what about prices? Any benchmarks?
Yes, median prices. According to the article, for condominiums, it's around 144,000 Thai baht per square meter.
Okay, THB 144,000 per square meter for condos.
Whereas villas and landed properties are quite a bit lower on a per square meter basis, around THB 70,000 per square meter. That difference is quite striking.
It is, but it makes sense when you think about it. It reflects the difference in land value and maybe construction density between a high-rise condo and a villa plot. But of course, the overall ticket price for a villa is usually much higher because they're just bigger and include more land.
Right, right. And the article really highlights one specific area as commanding the premier location for high values. That's Cherngtalay.
Cherngtalay, yes. Especially the part they call the Sunset Coast. That seems to be the absolute hotspot for this high-value market. And the article says it's not just the views driving the premium.
What else then?
It's the whole lifestyle package available there. Access to the high-end restaurants, the cool shops, beach clubs, and yes, the beautiful beaches themselves. It really embodies that desirable lifestyle buyers are looking for.
So value isn't just a simple square meter calculation. The article makes it clear. Location is huge, obviously, but also the size and layout of the specific property, the quality of the build and the finishes, and crucially, how close it is to all those amenities and attractions that enable that lifestyle.
Yeah, they all interact. Top quality finishes in a prime Cherngtalay spot with great facilities nearby. That's going to command a much higher price than the same quality in a less sought-after area.
Understanding that mix is vital for buyers and developers alike. And speaking of developers, the article lays out some key strategies for them in this changing market. One is quite smart, converting tourists into property owners.
That makes a lot of sense. Phuket already has millions of visitors who love the place.
Right.
So the strategy is basically to show them how owning a property there offers a deeper connection, maybe even better value, or a significant lifestyle upgrade compared to just coming back for short holidays year after year.
How do they do that?
The article mentions things like offering special packages that combine a holiday stay with property viewings, making it easy for people who are already there and enjoying themselves to see what ownership could look like.
Leveraging that existing positive feeling. Smart. Another strategy mentioned is mitigating external market risks.
Yeah, diversification, that's key in any global market today. The article really emphasizes that developers shouldn't rely too heavily on buyers from just one or two countries.
So spread the risk.
Exactly. It involves actively cultivating new international markets. That means doing the research, going to international property shows, building relationships with agents overseas, running targeted marketing campaigns in different regions.
So they need to think internationally right from the start. And the article also suggests developers are becoming more than just builders. They're acting as destination marketers, too.
Absolutely. Their job now includes selling the whole Phuket package,
Wow.
the lifestyle, the culture, the investment potential to the world. And that also means, ideally, working with local communities and supporting sustainable tourism because they need to protect the very destination they're selling.
It's a much bigger job description than just pouring concrete. Now, the article gives some specific examples of developments, especially around Cherngtalay, that are kind of embodying these changes. Sudara Residences gets a mention.
Yes, that's a project by LKF Group. The article holds it up as a good example of this lifestyle-focused development. It's got 220 apartments, 1 to 3 bedrooms, ranging from about 52 to 144 square meters.
Okay.
And interestingly, some units even have their own private pools, which taps right into that desire for privacy, even in a condo setting.
And the amenities. The list sounds amazing. They have this pavilion clubhouse with multiple pools, a lounge, kids club, gym, cafe, yoga space, even co-working spaces.
See? That mix leisure, wellness, and practical stuff like co-working it tells you exactly who they're targeting, that long-term lifestyle buyer. Plus, they mention it's managed by Sudara Resort and Villas, adding that luxury service layer. Completion expected around 2027.
The article also talks about other big projects changing the game, like Botanica Grand Avenue.
Right, described as a huge project by Botanica near Bang Tao Beach, a THB 12 billion mega project. It's planned as mixed-use residential and commercial, basically aiming to create its own self-contained luxury hub within Phuket.
Sounds ambitious.
Yeah.
And it seems they're having some success. Their first condo project, HYC by Botanica, apparently saw 40% pre-launch sales.
Yeah, these large-scale integrated places seem to be a key trend. The article also references another massive one, and THB 18 billion high-end condo project, also near Bang Tao. This one's set to have an art-inspired walking street and fancy shops.
Wow.
The goal is clearly stated: become a major luxury hub. And this fits into Thailand's bigger picture, its national goal of being seen as a global luxury destination. Cherngtalay and that whole area, it's really ground zero for this push.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. For anyone thinking about investing, especially from overseas, the legal and financial side is obviously critical. The article really flags the importance of understanding Thailand's leasehold structure.
Yes, this is super important and something people absolutely need to get proper advice on. Unlike places where you buy the land freehold, in Thailand, it's typically leasehold. You're essentially getting a long-term rental, usually 30 years, often with options to renew.
30 years, okay.
And the source is very clear. You must get a good independent lawyer, a solicitor, to go through the lease agreement meticulously so you fully understand what you're signing, what the renewal terms are, everything. Don't skim this part.
Sound advice. Definitely need expert legal help there. Beyond the leasehold, what about taxes? The article mentions property tax implications.
It does. It lists the main ones: stamp duty, transfer fees, which are usually split between the buyer and seller, and if you plan to rent the property out, there's withholding tax on that income. Again, the advice is consistent. Get professional tax advice specific to your situation.
Right, because tax rules can be complex and change. And one more point for investors from the article. leveraging data-driven market analysis.
Yeah, basically saying don't just rely on your gut feeling or what someone told you down the pub.
Uh-huh. Right.
In a market moving this fast, you need solid data. Look at rental yields for comparable properties, check occupancy rates in the area, analyze price trends over time. The article even suggests considering paying for professional market reports to get that comprehensive picture before you invest.
Makes sense. Replace guesswork with actual analysis. Looking forward now, the article stresses that the market's continued success really depends on infrastructure development. It plays a critical role.
Yeah, you can have the nicest villas in the world, but if the roads are jammed, the power is unreliable, or getting around is a nightmare, it undermines the whole proposition. Good infrastructure is essential for growth and for keeping property values up.
And the article argues that as Phuket evolves, its infrastructure has to keep pace.
Definitely. Phuket is clearly on this continued expansion trajectory. It's moving beyond just being a holiday island to become, as the article says, a more complete and desirable place to live and invest.
And that requires serious investment in connectivity.
Exactly. The article talks about ongoing efforts to enhance connectivity and accessibility, big things like upgrading Phuket International Airport to handle more flights, especially international ones, improving the road network to reduce traffic jams, investing in public transport. They mention things like electric buses, maybe even light rail down the track.
And they even give some timelines for these big projects. The airport expansion, aiming for completion in 2027, that's expected to be a major boost, bringing in more tourists and potential buyers.
Then there's new highway construction, planned for completion by 2028. That should cut travel times across the island, which could make new areas more attractive and valuable.
And the public transport upgrade, with improvements expected by 2030, aims to improve quality of life and also helps with sustainability. So these aren't just vague plans, they're concrete projects that should underpin the market's future.
They really are. They're fundamental pieces that show a confidence in Phuket's long-term future as a place to live and invest.
Let's quickly circle back to Botanica luxury villas.
Yeah.
The article uses them as an example of recent success, mentioning record-breaking sales performance, including, get this, THB 1.2 billion in sales in just 1 month.
Wow, that's a huge volume. It really shows the strength at the very top end of the market, and it highlights another really significant trend the article points out, maybe slightly counter to the growing condo interest we mentioned earlier, which is the villa market outpacing condominium launches. Apparently for the first time in 15 years.
First time in 15 years, villas leading the way in new supply, that's a big shift.
Yeah, it is. And the article explains why it might be happening now. It comes back to that appeal of space, privacy, having your own pool, and how well villas fit with that work-from-anywhere lifestyle.
Right, that self-contained environment.
Exactly. Perfect for mixing, living, working, relaxing. The total market value just for villas is now estimated at a historic THB 160-170 billion.
Incredible numbers. And where's the demand coming from?
Still global, but the article specifically calls out strong demand from European and Russian buyers looking for second homes or investment properties.
Interesting.
Yeah, this steady flow of international buyers from different markets is really key to driving prices, especially in those desirable areas the article mentions, like Kamala and Bang Tao. It really speaks to Thailand, and Phuket in particular, raising its game in the global luxury property world.
Okay, just wrapping up the article's points, it briefly touches on geographic diversification for developers.
Yeah, just noting that some successful Phuket developers are looking beyond Phuket now, expanding into other nice spots in Thailand. It's partly about growth, but also a smart strategy to spread their risk and not have all their eggs in the Phuket basket.
Makes sense. And while Phuket is hot, the article acknowledges other places in Thailand might offer attractive rental yields too.
Sure. The key factors influencing rental yield are pretty universal, though. Location, property type, villa versus condo, size, quality, amenities, and how well it's managed. Investors need to weigh those factors wherever they're looking in Thailand.
So all these different threads, the changing buyer demands, the developer strategies, the crucial infrastructure investment, these success stories like Botanica, they all weave together to underscore what the article calls Thailand's growing stature in luxury real estate.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the country is making a very deliberate push, backed by both private money and public spending, to become a major global player in this space, attracting serious international buyers and investment. And Phuket seems to be leading that charge.
So, okay, let's step back. This deep dive, based on the Ocean Worldwide article, it really paints a picture of Phuket's luxury market, not just recovering, but actively transforming.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's resilient, yes, but it's also adapting fast to what global buyers want now. That lifestyle, the wellness focus, privacy, it's not just about old school luxury anymore.
And we've seen how Cherngtalay is really cementing itself as the prime spot
Yeah.
because it delivers that whole package, amenities, lifestyle, the works. And that fascinating shift, villas now leading condos and new projects, reflecting that hunger for space and privacy, especially for longer stays or remote work.
Yeah, that's a big one. And the sheer scale of the new development, especially those big integrated resorts, shows real confidence in the future. Plus, those infrastructure upgrades we talked about are vital foundations for turning Phuket into a genuine long-term lifestyle base.
And for you, the listener, if you're looking at this market, understanding those specifics, the leasehold system, the taxes, the power of using real data, that's absolutely essential for making smart decisions.
Definitely. Whether you're thinking about investing, or maybe even dreaming of that work from a tropical paradise setup, or maybe you're just interested in how global trends play out locally, these insights give you a pretty clear window into what's making the luxury market tick in Phuket right now.
It's clearly a market in flux, built on that incredible natural beauty,
Yeah.
but now being shaped more and more by these big global shifts in how we live and work, which leads us to a final thought to leave you with today.
Okay.
Based on this whole picture of transformation, as Phuket pivots more from being just a temporary escape to potentially a permanent home for a growing global community, how does it manage that? How does it balance all that necessary growth and development with protecting the very things that relaxed vibe, the natural beauty, that feeling of escape that made it so special in the first place? Something to think about.